Sunday, Sunday, be there. I always wanted to say that. Anyway, it is Sunday right now for me. I guess it depends on when you're watching this, but I got a question this morning that I really want to answer in video format because I want to talk about a video that I did 5 years ago. 5 years ago. I didn't realize how long ago it was I started doing these figs. Actually, I think it was about 6 years ago I officially started working with figs. The question is this. It comes from Zavia Hope Thomas. I call her a friend. She's been on the channel a long time, been following along, and we've had a lot of little conversations here and there over different videos about different topics. She lives kind of in the same general area as me. Now this question is about the video I just posted yesterday and about the fig cuttings in the tent with the lights on. And it's this: I'm concerned about your cuttings that are getting leaves and do not have roots yet. I'm concerned too. Every time I had that happen, they died. I learned to root them in whatever light was in the house. So she's talking about just ambient light somewhere off in a corner. And when I saw roots, then I would put them under grow lights. I've had better success with that. Right now, there's nothing to support those leaves. Mike! Exclamation. She didn't add that part, but I kind of saw it in my mind going that way. So it wasn't so much a question as it was, hey Mike, what are you doing here, buddy? And I completely appreciate that because, as she said, I am very concerned too. I just started those cuttings about a year ago. I just started those cuttings about a week, maybe a week and a half ago. And we're going to go inside in just a second here and take a look at them. But the thing that I'm concerned with is I'm already seeing green growth. Now, I have not rooted fig cuttings indoors like this for a couple of years now, if my memory serves me right. I've been rooting them outdoors here in the greenhouse or hoop house in the springtime. Here we are in the middle of winter because I had all these fig cuttings that had to get stuck because they were a year old. I'm in the house and I think I might have forgotten how to root figs indoors. Here's why. 5 years ago, I made a series of videos over the winter time about rooting these figs indoors. We did several different methods to root these things, and we found what worked absolutely wonderfully and beautifully for those figs indoors through the winter. It's been 5 years since I did this. And so one little aspect slipped my mind. Well, it didn't really slip my mind, but it was there all along. I just kind of chose to ignore it. And that was when I was doing these cuttings back then, the best method I found that worked well was putting them, like Zavia said, in an area where there's no light, where it's even in darkness. And I did this whole video, this whole experiment. I'll put links to that video and another video down in the description and probably in the comments here, so you can go check those out. But I did experiments where they were in no light for like 2.5, 3 weeks on bottom heat inside. Then after I started seeing roots, after a few weeks went by in the darkness, then I moved them under light, and we saw that after just a short amount of time, a few days under the light, all of a sudden the new green growth started coming up. So we've already been there, we've already done that. Now here I am making the same mistakes again. Why do we do this to ourselves? I don't know. So now I've stuck these cuttings in the tent with the light, no bottom heat, and they're already starting to leaf out, and there's no roots. Now, relax guys, don't worry too much. I think I've got this under control. You never can be too sure. But I've worked with these figs so much over the last 6 years, maybe even more, I don't know now, that I feel like I'm starting to get a good handle on what we can get away with and what we can't get away with. First of all, I shouldn't have waited a year before I stuck those cuttings, but we know that they're gonna root, some of them, a large portion of them, and that is because these figs root so easily. They're in a warm house. I don't want to mess with the bottom heat because I don't want to make them too hot. Could I have done better sticking them on bottom heat in a dark corner? Possibly. I don't have that much bottom heat. I've got 3 mats total for bottom heat, and one of them is being used for another project that you guys haven't seen yet. Another one is going to be used for projects coming up here in the spring. And then the last one is just a small little heat mat that won't cover one of those bigger totes I've got. So a part of this is simply just logistics. Another part of it's probably a little bit of cockiness. We do know that pride goes before a fall, but I'm praying that there is no fall to come in the future here with these fig cuttings. I'm starting to ramble. Let's go inside and we'll take a look at what we've got, how things are moving along, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. I will put links to those videos down in the description, so don't forget to check them out, because what happens on YouTube is after about a year and a half or so, they start dropping these videos off and they don't show them to you guys. And then some of you who come in from a year ago never even see them or realize they're there. So I'm going to put them down there below and you can go check them out and see what it's like. You know, everything new under the sun has already been invented, or no, that's wrong. Nothing new under the sun, I think, is the term. There's nothing new under the sun. That's the right way to say it. But you know, we've already figured out the best way to do this indoors, or at least here at my place. But here I am trying to reinvent the wheel again. There's another term, and I think I got that one right. But let's head inside and let's check these things out. Einstein, the lab is an awful, awful mess. You guys like Back to the Future? Let's get inside here and see what's going on. I gotta get this fully unzipped. There we go. I'm gonna shove this off to the side. All right. And then I already shoved this over to the side. You can see what we got under here. I gotta show you that anyway, but I'm gonna come back to this in just a sec. So, all right, there's the figs. It's been a week, about a week, something like that, since I filmed that last video that I just posted yesterday, and we've got some progress already. So there was 6 figs in here that came from David Burke, and this one's already starting to leaf out. Now, these were just new cuttings that he sent me about a month ago, something like that. So they're from this year. Most of everything else is from a year ago, sitting in my fridge all that time. There's some figs in here that came from Lou Monte of Lou Monte's Figs on YouTube, and those are from maybe a month and a half ago, something like that. But they're starting to get some swollen buds in there, and things are starting to happen. But here's what Xavier was worried about, which, like I said, I'm a little concerned too, but that one's leafing out. This guy's leafing out. That one's leafing out. We're starting to get some growth on some of these figs here. And the problem is we don't have any roots yet. Now, you guys know I've been preaching for years now about hardwood cuttings, and I know I get some flack about it, but you don't need to cover your hardwood cuttings. You don't need to put a dome over top of this wood material. It's dormant, it's hardwood, it's firm, it's toughened up. It does not need to be humid. There's no leaves on it to actually lose moisture from the cutting. They will lose a little moisture through the bark, but not bad. But you don't need to cover your hardwood cuttings. We've established that. I've done many videos on this topic, and I've shown a lot of proof on the fact that you don't need to cover your hardwood cuttings. I never cover my hardwood cuttings because what that will do is encourage top growth. And that's what I want to delineate here in this video. I'm not even sure if delineate is the right word. I think it is. But that's what I want to parse out here. That's what I want to separate is, Xavier, you're talking about this green growth right here. And you're absolutely right. I've got these things under some bright lights right now. Thank God I've raised them all the way up there and turned them down. But I've got them under some bright lights. And we've proven in past videos that when you do that, it helps trigger them to start growing, which we've done now. But here's the thing. Because they're not covered, they're only going to send out new growth at the rate that they can manage that new growth. Now, I know there's probably a bunch of you who are going, Mike, you're crazy and you're screaming at me right now. I don't know. I don't know what you guys all think out there. I know some of you believe in what I'm saying and some of you do things completely differently, but I'm just showing you what I'm doing here. So this is not a theory. This is tested over and over through the years by me, and this is the thing I think I'm trying to express that I need you to understand for why I'm doing what I'm doing here. To answer your question, Xavier, if I cover this, if I had covered this with a dome, it will leaf out more than it should be able to without the roots because it's in a humid container. It's in a container with near 100% humidity. Now, it will continue leafing out because it's got all this humid air to grow into. And it will continue doing that, but the problem is there's no roots down below. So when you take that cover off, they're not supported by humidity and they'll wilt and die.
That's what the problem typically ends up being with these figs or any hardwood cuttings. So you don't cover them. Now we've got green growth anyway, but look, it's not putting on massive leaves. It's not just shooting off like crazy. It's gently starting to grow. It's happening slowly because these leaves sense I'm inside in a house. And so this is not humid in here. I mean, there's a little bit more humidity because there's some moisture down here that's evaporating, but I've got all these, well, that one's closed up. I could probably open it, but all these vents here are open on top, letting out air, letting out heat, all that. I usually have this door halfway open all day long and just peek in every once in a while. So this is not humid in here. It's almost the same, humidity level as the inside of my house, which is fairly dry in the winter. And so these guys are coming out into a fairly dry environment. They are not coming out into a super humid environment, and they're only going to do that. They can sense that. They're only going to do that to the level that they can support this growth. And right now, these thick cuttings, here's something else that you guys got to take notice of. These thick cuttings are the ones doing it. Look at that, thick cutting. You don't see these thin cuttings. Look at that, thin cutting. It's not doing anything yet. Thin cutting, it's not doing anything. Thin cutting. You don't see any of these thin cuttings leafing out yet. You see the buds starting to swell, but you don't see them leafing out yet. Well, there's one just barely wanting to start, but it's not out yet. Which ones are leafing out? The fat ones. The fat cuttings are leafing out. Why? Because all of that cutting material can support the amount of growth that it's putting out. It's testing the waters, guys. That's all it's doing. It's testing the waters. So there you go. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I hope that answers your question, Zavia. Things are going okay in here. I'm not as worried as, I might seem on camera because I'm just one of those kinds of people. But I got everything under control. I think we're doing fine. I've got an understanding of what's going on in here. And I think when you guys are rooting your cuttings at home, some of this information I'm telling you right now, hopefully will help you understand that it's okay. It's okay if they leaf out a little bit. They're only going to leaf out to the point that they can when in any situation, whether you cover them or not. The problem is when you do cover them and they leaf out massively and then you take the cover off. That's the issue. Then you have this top growth that can't be supported because it doesn't have the roots yet. These guys know they ain't got the roots. They're just testing waters. So I hope that answers your question. I hope that kind of sums things up for you. I know it was a roundabout sort of way of doing it, but you guys want to see all this anyway, right? You want to check out all these cuttings. They're coming along. Now, while we're over here, I thought I'd just move attention to this little area under here and show you that what we've got under here are these fluorescent bulbs. Now, these are the same bulbs, the same fixture I was using like 5 years ago when I rooted all those figs under here, and I'm starting to notice something. I moved this begonia, the little hydrangea, and the two dracaena under here because I had to make room for all this stuff. And once I moved them under here, look at what we got. Look at this little hydrangea. It's starting to put out even more growth. It likes this light. These bulbs are, if I remember right, 6,000 or 6,500 Kelvin T8 bulbs, 32 watts each. They're just basic bulbs that you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot. And plants, look at this thing's been thriving since I did that. It's sending up new little shoots right there. They love these bulbs. I have worked so hard and struggled to try and figure out these LED lights, and I'm finally starting to get it. I'm figuring out they're just too intense. So you got to raise them up, and you got to have a bigger tent so they can spread that light. But these fluorescent bulbs, man, these plants love these things. Anyway, just a little observation I thought I'd show you. You don't have to have expensive lights. You can get away with fluorescent bulbs and actually sometimes, in many cases, do beautifully with the fluorescence. So there you are. That's it. I hope it answers some questions for you guys and you feel more confident about rooting your hardwood cuttings without covers. And if they start shooting off a little bit of new growth, it's going to be okay as long as you don't have them covered. And then I would encourage you, because YouTube doesn't show this stuff anymore, these videos are old, but
I would encourage you to go down below in the description or I'll put it in the comments too probably, and click on the links to these couple videos from when we were rooting figs inside 5 years ago, because there's a lot of good information in there and it really worked out well inside a house. I know a lot of you are inside your house right now trying to root figs. It's winter time, and whether you're doing it this way or not, there's a lot of great information in those videos. And I've tried a lot of this stuff. We've already done it. We've been there, done that, and you can learn from it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you learned something. If you did, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to follow along and see how these little guys turn out. Have a fantastic week, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.